Some people walk into Costco for bulk savings. Others walk in to wage war with logic itself. Behind those concrete walls, employees face a never-ending parade of complaints so absurd, you'll start to wonder if reality comes with a return policy. These are the moments that prove membership doesn't always include common sense. 1. A woman tried to return a completely dead brown Christmas tree in the middle of January. She marched up to the returner's desk, receipt in hand, complaining that it died too quickly. The employee looked at the skeletal remains of the once festive pine and then back at her, asking when she bought it. Her response? Late November. Apparently, she expected a magical, immortal tree as part of her membership, not a basic lesson in botany. 2. You have to admire the sheer audacity of some people. A man brought back an empty cake box, saved for a few crumbs, and demanded a full refund. His reason? He claimed the cake was too dry and his family didn't enjoy it. The employee pointed out that despite this terrible dryness, the entire cake had been completely devoured. The man just stared back, apparently believing that the evidence of consumption was irrelevant to the quality complaint. 3. An employee had to spend 10 minutes listening to a customer complain that Costco sells things in quantities that are just too large. Yes, someone came into a wholesale warehouse club to complain about the wholesale part. He was furious that he couldn't just buy 2 rolls of toilet paper or a single stick of butter. It's like walking into a swimming pool and filing a formal complaint about all the water. 4. Picture this. A customer, after spending a full hour and a half leisurely doing their shopping, gets to the checkout line and complains to the cashier. Their issue? The $5 rotisserie chicken they picked up at the very beginning of their trip was no longer piping hot. They genuinely expected the chicken to defy the laws of thermodynamics while it sat in their cart next to the frozen pizzas and ice cream. 5. A member once threw a fit because they didn't like their membership card photo. They didn't just ask for a retake, they demanded the employee use better lighting and let them approve the shot before printing. They acted as if this tiny, grainy ID photo was for the cover of a magazine, not for proving they have the right to buy a 50-gallon drum of mayonnaise. The employee had to gently explain this wasn't a professional portrait studio. 6. In perhaps the least surprising story ever, a customer attempted to return an empty bottle of Kirkland's signature wine. Their reasoning was flawless, in their mind at least. They claimed the wine was defective because it gave them a headache. The return desk employee had to fight every instinct to explain the basic biological concept of a hangover, and that no, you don't get a refund for the predictable consequences of drinking an entire bottle of wine. 7. An employee watched a man stare at a massive pallet of bottled water for several minutes before flagging them down. The man angrily pointed at the sign and said the price was outrageous. The sign, of course, was for a single 24-pack of water. The customer was convinced the sign's price was for the entire, floor-to-ceiling pallet containing hundreds of cases. He was ready to argue that he should get a literal ton of water for about $15. 8. The free sample stations are a battlefield, and some customers see them as a constitutional right. One woman lodged a formal complaint against an employee because the sample cart for mini quiches had run out. She wasn't just disappointed, she was incensed, accusing the worker of poor planning and ruining her shopping experience. She was genuinely furious that she could no longer get unlimited, free appetizers while she shopped for her 48-pack of socks. 9. Every year, as summer ends, the parade of disgusting used grills begins. One man tried to return a grill in late September that was caked in a horrifying layer of grease, rust, and burnt-on food remnants. He claimed it stopped working. The employee could tell it had clearly hosted a season's worth of barbecues for the entire neighborhood. When his refund was denied, the man was shocked, as if satisfaction guaranteed meant a free grill rental for the whole summer. 10. A customer once tracked down an employee in the tire center to complain that another shopper had just taken their favorite parking spot out front. They demanded that the employee go outside, locate the offending vehicle, and force the other person to move. The tire center guy had to politely explain that his job description involved rotating tires and checking pressure, not acting as a parking hole. 11. A man walked up to the food court counter and complained that the onions for the hot dogs were chopped too small. He wasn't joking. He argued that the minuscule size of the onion bits made them difficult to scoop and resulted in an uneven flavor distribution on his $1.50 Frankfurter. He then proceeded to lecture the 19-year-old employee on the proper culinary technique for dicing onions for a mass-produced, subsidized hot dog. 12. A woman furiously returned a brand-new top-of-the-line 8K television. Her complaint wasn't about dead pixels or a faulty remote. She was angry because when she put on an old black-and-white movie from the 1940s, it was still in black and white. She genuinely believed that the 8K technology was supposed to magically colorize old films, and accused Costco of false advertising when it failed to retroactively transform Humphrey Bogart's trench coat from grayscale to Technicolor. 13. An employee had to process the return of a used toilet seat. The customer's justification for bringing back this biohazard was that it was uncomfortable. They had installed it, used it for what was clearly several weeks, and then decided their posterior deserved a higher level of luxury. The staffer, armed with rubber gloves and a gallon of hand sanitizer, had to explain that once a toilet seat has been initiated, it's considered a final sale for very obvious sanitary reasons. 14. At a sample station for mini pizzas, a man became irate with the employee handing them out. His problem? The one sample per person rule. He argued that since he paid his membership fee, he should be entitled to as many free samples as he wanted. He accused the sample lady of hoarding and demanded she give him an entire tray to take with him so he could properly evaluate the product from the comfort of his own couch. It was a full-blown argument over a half ounce of cheese and bread. 15. A woman in the parking lot honked her horn until a cart retrieval employee came over. She demanded that he personally walk her cart back to the cart return corral for her. When he pointed out it was only a few feet away, she scoffed and said, "I have a new luxury car. The wind might blow the cart into it. Your job is to prevent that." She apparently believed her membership fee included a personal valet service to protect her BMW from the treacherous elements of a suburban parking lot. 16. A member cornered a manager to complain about the long lines at the Costco gas station. This is a common gripe, but his solution was unique. He demanded they create a special executive platinum lane just for him and other high spenders because his time was more valuable than the people in minivans. He couldn't grasp the irony that the reason the lines were so long was because everyone, including him, wanted to save 20 cents a gallon. 17. A guy bought a whole pepperoni pizza from the food court, sat down, and then brought it back to the counter a few minutes later. His issue? He had used a napkin to measure the slices and found that they were not cut with perfect geometric symmetry. One slice was, in his estimation, almost a centimeter wider at the crust than the one next to it. He wasn't asking for a new pizza. He was demanding a partial refund for the flawed craftsmanship. 18. In the bakery section, a customer asked an employee who was decorating a birthday cake for advice on which motor oil was best for his Ford F-150. The baker politely explained that he specializes in buttercream, not synthetic blends. The customer became visibly angry, asking, "Don't you people know anything about the products you sell?" He was genuinely baffled that the cake decorator wasn't also a certified mechanic. 19. A woman marched in with a nearly empty 40-pound bag of Kirkland's signature dog food and slammed it on the returns counter. "My dog doesn't like it," she announced. The employee, seeing that maybe 5 pounds were left, asked how long she'd had it. She admitted it had been 2 months. She had apparently waited for her dog to eat 35 pounds of the food before he finally decided he wasn't a fan, and she expected a full refund based on her pet's delayed culinary critique. 20. The self-checkout area is a special kind of chaos. An employee assisting there had a man call them over, furious. The machine had flagged him for an age check on a case of beer. The employee asked to see his ID, and the man, who was clearly in his late 50s, refused. His argument was that the request itself was insulting to his intelligence, and that the employee should just be able to tell he was old enough without infringing on his privacy. 21. In early January, a man tried to return a massive 12-foot-tall inflatable snowman he'd bought before Christmas. The snowman itself was fine, still in the box. His reason for the return was that his electricity bill for December had been much higher than usual, and he blamed the snowman's internal fan and lights. He wanted Costco to refund him for the decoration because he hadn't anticipated that a giant illuminated lawn ornament would consume electricity. 22. A lady at a meatball sample station stopped the employee and began a detailed interrogation. Are these meatballs grass-fed? Are they gluten-free? Is the sauce organic and low sodium? The employee replied that they were just standard frozen meatballs. The woman was horrified. She lodged a complaint that Costco was being irresponsible by not offering a wider variety of dietary options at their free sample stations, as if it were a high-end tasting menu and not just a toothpick with a sphere of mystery meat. 23. A customer was so enraged by a new store layout that they demanded the warehouse manager give them the personal home address of Costco's CEO. They wanted to mail a strongly worded letter directly. The manager, for obvious security and privacy reasons, refused. The customer then accused the manager of being part of the corporate conspiracy to silence the voice of the members, as if finding the CEO's house was a constitutional right included with their membership. 24. A man stormed back to the food court clutching his mouth. He complained that the chicken bake he just bought was dangerously hot on the inside. He wasn't just asking for a new one. He was demanding that Costco put a prominent, legal-style warning label on the foil wrappers, cautioning customers about the molten cheese core. He was dead serious, arguing it was a public safety hazard and that he could have been seriously injured. 25. At the end of her membership year, a woman went to the service desk to return her executive membership upgrade. She had already received and cashed her 2% reward check. Her logic was that since the reward check wasn't as high as she had hoped it would be, the membership didn't pay for itself, and therefore she was entitled to a refund on the upgrade fee. She essentially treated the entire premium membership as a risk-free bet that she wanted to cancel after seeing the results. 26. A woman tried to return a laptop, complaining that a critical component was missing. When the employee asked what part was gone, she pointed at the keyboard and said, with complete confidence, "The any key." The employee had to gently explain that the prompt "press any key to continue" was an instruction, not a reference to a specific, universal button on every keyboard. She was not amused and insisted they were hiding this magical key from her. 27. The food court is a temple of cheap eats, but for some, it's a stage for culinary criticism. A man brought his cinnamon churro back to the counter, complaining that the cinnamon-to-sugar ratio was blatantly incorrect. He claimed the granule distribution was uneven, leading to an inconsistent flavor profile in every bite. He was demanding a refund for his $1.49 dessert based on what sounded like a rejected thesis from a pastry school. 28. At the membership desk, a customer was furious that they couldn't submit their own photo for their ID card. They had brought in a professionally shot, airbrushed headshot from 10 years prior and argued that the grainy, unflattering webcam photo Costco takes would damage their personal brand. They treated a warehouse club ID like it was a LinkedIn profile picture, expecting Photoshop and perfect lighting for the right to buy toilet paper in bulk. 29. The receipt check at the exit is a standard procedure, but one man viewed it as a profound injustice. He refused to show his receipt, loudly proclaiming that it was a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures. He seemed to believe that the doorway of a private, members-only warehouse club was a sovereign border, and the friendly senior citizen with a highlighter was an agent of a tyrannical government. 30. A mother flew into a rage at a sample station because her child, who she knew had a mild dairy allergy, ate a cheese cube and got a little rash. She didn't blame herself for letting him eat it. She blamed the employee for not having a laminated multi-page document detailing the full nutritional information, ingredient sourcing, and potential allergen cross-contamination reports for the free cubes of cheddar. 31. One of the most baffling returns was a half-eaten bag of avocados. The woman's complaint? They had all ripened at the same time. She was genuinely angry that nature had followed its course, and she couldn't possibly be expected to consume 6 avocados in the 3-day window of perfect ripeness. She wanted a refund because the fruit behaved exactly like fruit is supposed to behave. 32. An employee was stocking shelves in the vitamin aisle when a man approached him with a very serious question. "You guys all seem pretty smart," he began. "So what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency?" He was completely serious. He thought that because the employee worked within 50 feet of the pharmacy, he must be a secret financial genius, and he was looking for hot investment tips alongside his fish oil and vitamin D supplements. 33. A man flagged down a manager to complain that the store's parking spaces were too wide. Not too narrow, which is the usual complaint, but too wide. His logic was that the generous spacing encouraged laziness and sloppy parking, which in turn created a more chaotic and dangerous environment for everyone else. He was lodging a formal complaint against the very concept of having extra room to open his car door. 34. You know the little asterisk on a price tag that means an item is being discontinued? A customer saw one and had a full-blown meltdown. She accused Costco of using predatory psychological tactics by creating a sense of scarcity that was causing her immense anxiety. She demanded they remove the asterisk because it was turning her relaxing shopping trip into a high-pressure, stressful ordeal. 35. A man approached the electronics counter holding a remote control and looking furious. His complaint? "It doesn't work on my neighbor's TV." He explained that he'd bought the universal remote specifically to teach those people a lesson for being too loud, and was outraged to discover that universal apparently meant within his own house. He demanded a refund, calling it false advertising, and claiming Costco sold a remote with limited power. 36. A man tried to return a high-end designer suit a few days before his membership was set to expire. The suit had clearly been worn, still had a dry cleaning tag attached, and smelled faintly of wedding cake. His excuse for the year-late return? It just didn't fit the occasion. He had successfully used Costco's generous return policy as a free suit rental for a year and was genuinely shocked when the manager finally said no. 37. Dressed in nothing but a thin tank top and shorts, a woman complained to an employee that the dairy aisle was unbearably cold. She insisted they should adjust the temperature of the entire open-air refrigerated section because it was making her uncomfortable as she browsed for yogurt. She was, in essence, complaining that the refrigerators were working too effectively. 38. A man was seen using his car key to saw off a piece of a rotisserie chicken from its container in the middle of the aisle, eat it, and then put the container back on the shelf. When an employee confronted him, he complained that Costco doesn't provide a chicken tasting station, and he had to verify the quality himself before committing to the purchase. He saw nothing wrong with performing poultry surgery with his car key. 39. A customer returned a perfectly good, high-performance blender with a very strange complaint. He said it was too powerful. He explained that when he made his morning smoothie, it obliterated the fruit molecules, which he claimed destroyed all the nutrients and resulted in a lifeless, nutrient-deficient slurry. He had invented his own pseudoscience to justify returning a product for working exactly as advertised. 40. At the exit, a woman became irate because the receipt checker drew a simple line on her receipt with a green marker. She demanded to see a manager, claiming the employee had permanently defaced her legal document. She needed a pristine copy for her financial records and argued that the single, non-obstructive highlighter mark had rendered it completely invalid for her accounting purposes. 41. In the tire center, a customer complained that the free nitrogen inflation service was a scam. His evidence? Nitrogen is all around us. The air I'm breathing right now is 78% nitrogen. He argued that charging extra for something that's free in the atmosphere was a blatant ripoff. The employee had to patiently explain the difference between ambient air and purified high-pressure nitrogen, a science lesson the man was clearly not interested in receiving. 42. A woman brought back a half-used, economy-sized bottle of shampoo. Her complaint was that the product didn't give her the same feeling of confidence that her previous, more expensive salon brand did. She was essentially trying to get a refund on an emotional outcome. She expected a 2-gallon jug of Kirkland's signature shampoo to not only clean her hair, but also cure her deep-seated insecurities for the low price of $9.99. 43. A member became furious when he was told the food court didn't offer a gluten-free pizza crust option. He launched into a tirade about how Costco was discriminating against people with celiac disease. The employee calmly pointed out that the food court is a tiny, high-volume kitchen where cross-contamination is unavoidable, making a truly gluten-free option impossible to guarantee. The man just heard, "We don't care about you," and threatened to write a letter to corporate about their blatant glutenism. 44. An employee watched a customer open a large container of mixed nuts, pick out all of the cashews, eat them, and then carefully close the lid and put it back on the shelf. When confronted, the customer complained that the nut mix had an insufficient cashew-to-almond ratio. He claimed he was simply correcting the balance and saw himself as a volunteer quality control specialist, not a thief who just ate the most expensive nuts out of the jar. 45. A man tried to return a dead houseplant. This is common, but his reasoning was special. He claimed the plant committed suicide. He said he provided it with adequate light, water, and even positive verbal affirmations, but it died anyway out of sheer botanical depression. He argued that the plant was clearly defective from the start, lacking the will to live, and he should not be financially responsible for its melancholic demise. 46. Someone complained to a manager that the store's background music was uninspiring and negatively affecting their shopping momentum. They didn't just dislike the soft rock playlist. They had a curated list of high-energy electronic dance music tracks on their phone that they insisted would optimize shopper efficiency and increase overall sales. They were offering unsolicited pro bono DJ services to improve the store's vibe. 47. A woman complained that the Kirkland's signature brand jeans were too long. The employee showed her that they offered the same style in a short inseam. The customer scoffed and replied, "But I'm not a short person. I'm an average person. The pants are just wrong." She would rather believe that Costco had manufactured thousands of pairs of pants with fundamentally incorrect dimensions than simply buy the size that was literally labeled for her body type. 48. The parking lot strikes again. A member complained that the shopping carts didn't have a sophisticated braking system. He had parked his oversized SUV on a slight incline, failed to put the cart in the corral, and it had slowly rolled about 10 feet and gently tapped his bumper. He was demanding that Costco's cart manufacturer be held liable for not equipping them with hydraulic disc brakes to prevent such low-speed, predictable mishaps. 49. A man returned a giant multi-pound bag of frozen broccoli florets. His reason? He was angry that he had found a few small broccoli stems mixed in with the florets. He acted as if this were a shocking betrayal, like finding a pebble in a bag of diamonds. He wanted a full refund because the bag was not 100% pure floret, despite the fact that stems are, in fact, an integral part of the broccoli plant. 50. A customer at the pharmacy counter complained, very loudly, that their pharmacist looked too young to be trusted with their medication. They demanded to see an older, more experienced-looking pharmacist. The actual pharmacist, who had a doctorate and years of experience, just had to stand there while this person judged their professional competence based entirely on their lack of wrinkles. 51. The food court's self-serve soda fountain was the source of one man's outrage. He complained that the carbonation level in the Pepsi was suboptimal. He insisted he could taste the difference and that the CO2 to syrup mixture was off by a noticeable margin. He demanded the employee recalibrate the entire fountain system immediately because his $1 beverage was not fizzy enough for his refined palate. 52. A woman tried to return a stack of books she had bought months earlier. The books were clearly well-read with cracked spines and dog-eared pages. Her complaint? I didn't like the endings. She had treated the Costco book section like a public library with a refund policy, reading the books to completion and then returning them based on a negative literary review. 53. An elderly man complained that the font size on the price signs was too small for him to read without his glasses. The employee politely suggested he might want to wear his glasses while shopping. The man became indignant, stating that he shouldn't have to, and that Costco should be more accommodating by making all signs legible from 20 feet away to the unaided elderly eye. 54. A member came to the returns desk with a completely empty jumbo-sized bag of tortilla chips. She claimed the product was defective because the chips were too addictive, causing her and her family to uncontrollably eat the whole bag in one sitting. She argued this was a form of poor product design, and she wanted a full refund for the snack that she had enjoyed so much it was now gone. 55. After finishing his shopping, a man went to the service desk to complain about the smell coming from the seafood department. He wasn't saying it smelled spoiled. He was complaining that it smelled like fish. He was genuinely upset that the area of the store where they sell hundreds of pounds of raw fish had a distinct, fishy aroma. He suggested they should do something to make the fish section smell less like, well, fish. 56. A customer returned a massive, industrial-sized box of plastic wrap. Their complaint was that the little serrated cutting edge on the box was too sharp, and they were worried they might cut themselves. They weren't injured. They were just preemptively complaining about a safety feature that was, by design, supposed to be sharp enough to cut plastic. They were essentially returning a knife because it had a blade. 57. In the meat department, an employee was asked by a customer to cut a steak to look like the state of Texas. The butcher, confused, explained that he was a butcher, not a sculptor, and that beef tenderloin doesn't naturally lend itself to cartography. The customer was disappointed, arguing that for the price of prime beef, they should get a customized patriotic shape for their upcoming barbecue. 58. A woman marched to the service desk to complain about the store's lighting. She claimed the fluorescent lights were unflattering and made her look tired in the reflection on the freezer doors. She demanded they switch to a warmer, softer lighting scheme, similar to what you'd find in a high-end boutique, to improve her self-esteem while she shopped for frozen fish sticks. 59. One of the most legendary returns was a 15-year-old receipt. A man found an ancient receipt for a pressure washer he had bought a decade and a half earlier. The machine had finally broken down after years of use. He brought the fossilized receipt and the broken machine back, arguing that the lifetime warranty he thought it had should still be valid. He was genuinely trying to cash in on a purchase made during a different presidential administration. 60. A member complained that the free samples were too small to make an informed decision. He cornered a manager and argued that a single ravioli or a quarter ounce of sausage was not a sufficient data point. He proposed a tiered sampling system, where executive members could receive a tasting flight of 3 or 4 samples to properly evaluate the product's full flavor profile before committing to a purchase. 61. After a mild rainstorm, a woman came in to complain that the parking lot was wet. She didn't slip, she didn't fall. She was just angry that there were puddles she had to walk around. She insisted that Costco should have a giant awning covering the entire parking lot, or at the very least, a team of employees with squeegees to clear a dry path for her from her car to the entrance. 62. a man tried to return a used dog bed, claiming it was defective. The defect? "My dog doesn't like it." He explained that his poodle, Princess Fluffy, had refused to sleep in it, which he took as a sign of poor craftsmanship. He expected the return desk employee to process a refund based on the subjective comfort preferences of his very discerning canine. 63. At the food court, a customer complained that his pizza had too much cheese. Not that the cheese was bad, just that the quantity was excessive. He argued that the cheese-to-sauce-to-crust ratio was unbalanced, creating a suboptimal eating experience. He was genuinely complaining about getting more of the most expensive ingredient on his $5 slice of pizza. 64. A man returned a digital thermostat, claiming it was broken because his energy bills hadn't gone down. When the employee asked how he had programmed it, the man admitted he hadn't. He just installed it on the wall and assumed the device would telepathically know his desired temperature schedule and automatically generate savings without any human input. He was returning it for not being a mind reader. 65. An employee had to listen to a 5-minute lecture from a woman who was furious that the Kirkland Signature Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil was packaged in a plastic bottle, not a dark glass one. She accused Costco of disrespecting the integrity of the olive and claimed the plastic would cause micro-oxidation, ruining the oil's delicate flavor notes. She spoke about olive oil with the passion and intensity of a world-renowned sommelier. 66. A customer complained that the store's shopping carts were too noisy. He said the squeaking of the wheels was disruptive to his meditative shopping state. He suggested that Costco invest in a fleet of next-generation, silent-wheeled carts with whisper-quiet bearings to create a more serene and peaceful warehouse shopping environment for everyone. 67. A woman came in with a half-eaten pumpkin pie the day after Thanksgiving. Her reason for returning it was that her family didn't like it as much as the one her grandma makes. She was effectively asking for a refund because the professionally made, mass-produced pie had lost a bake-off competition to a cherished, nostalgic family recipe. The store was supposed to be financially liable for her family's sentimental taste buds. 68. A man flagged down an employee in the middle of an aisle and complained that other shoppers were walking too slow and blocking his path. He demanded that the employee go and tell the other customers to speed up or move out of his way. He wanted the store employee to act as his personal traffic cop, clearing a path for him so he could complete his shopping at maximum velocity. 69. And for the grand finale of absurdity, a member filed a formal, written complaint that the sheer size of the Costco warehouse was unnecessary and intimidating. They argued that the high ceilings and long aisles were a wasteful use of space and created a sense of personal insignificance. They were complaining about the fundamental architectural and business model of a warehouse club, suggesting a cozier, more intimate shopping experience would be better. So, which one broke your brain the most? The woman returning a used toilet seat or the guy demanding brakes on his shopping cart? Drop your pick in the comments. I want to see just how far your faith in humanity has fallen. And if this madness made you laugh, hit like and subscribe, because the next round of stupidity is already loading.